Good morning, friends. Welcome back to the Food Forest. I'm back here in my happy place now again in the Food Forest, and I hope you guys are in your happy place as well and spending as much time as you can in your garden. We're going to go over the subject of ground covers in this one. I promised a video on that recently. So I'm going to call it the good, the bad, and the ugly, and just reverse the order a little bit. And let's start with the bad ones, okay? Um, let's bypass a lot of this good ground cover in here and just talk about the bad ones first. Bad ones are grasses in general, turf grasses, and they're plants that don't want to cooperate with a food forest ecosystem. The grasses don't like to participate in the mycorrhizal network that all of your food forest plants love to participate in. They're actively competing against the whole idea of a forest. The turf grasses don't like a forest. They, in nature, forest succession is a natural force that happens, but if the grasses had any say in it, they would stop it. They're competing against that because they need a lot of sunlight, and so they do a lot of things that actively compete against what you're trying to do. One of them is they make a real dense mat of roots and grass and runners, stolons, right on the surface, and it's so thick that all of your trees and shrubs that have real shallow roots, they physically can't even get their roots into these dense mats. So they're not competing, they're not cooperating and participating in the mycorrhizal network. They're actually physically creating a barrier that your shallow roots cannot get into. Somewhat they may be robbing nutrients from the system. That's not as big of a problem as it was once thought to be, but there could be some of that happening as well. So some of the bad ones are just your common turf grasses that most yards are set up with. Bermuda grass, St. Augustine grass, Bahia grass. Those are real common throughout the South where I've been growing my gardens. This garden was primarily a Bahia grass garden. Also had a lot of Bermuda grass. So these grasses they're so foreign and so alien to the food forest ecosystem that they actually evolved a different type of photosynthesis. It's called C4 photosynthesis, and it's actually a different chemical pathway of using the sun's energy to create carbohydrates. So it's a different set of chemical reactions. It's called C4 photosynthesis. C3 photosynthesis is what all your food forest plants do. So grasses are just actually an alien set of plants to what you're trying to achieve with a food forest. Turf grasses. So those are the bad guys. So let's talk about the good guys a little bit real quickly and why they're so good. If your ground cover is a broadleaf plant, already you're a big step ahead. You're in C3 plants now, not the C4 photosynthesizers. You're in plants that participate in mycorrhizal networks. And then in the case of some of these ground covers like this sunshine mimosa that we have all in here, they're actually associated with bacteria and fix nitrogen in the soil. You don't get any of that with your turf grasses. And so these good guys, they actually want to play with the plants in your food forest. They get into the same mycorrhizal networks. So all the nutrients and hormones, proteins, all those organic compounds that the Wood Wide Web is moving around your food forest, trying to help it become the richest, most productive ecosystem it can make it be, because it wants the shade and it wants that soil moisture retention that comes from all of that. Well, these guys are part of the big team of plants that work with the fungi to make all that happen. Sunshine mimosa, it's a beautiful little plant. Here's a section right here. It's got nice little flowers, beautiful. I think it's called puffball mimosa or something like that. Another great ground cover is your sweet potatoes. Again, it's a broadleaf plant, C3 photosynthesizer. These create good soil fertility just by creating those sweet potatoes in the ground, which are excellent. And you know, I don't even generally eat them. Actually, I don't like disturbing the soil in my food forest, so I just leave my sweet potatoes in the ground. I let that become organic matter that helps my soil. The nutrients in those sweet potatoes end up in me eventually, because those nutrients get taken up by the wood wide web, goes into my fruit trees. When I eat the fruit from my fruit trees, I'm gaining some benefit from that sweet potato, indirectly, long term. But that's the way I handle my sweet potatoes. This right here is called frog fruit, native plant to Florida. And it's great ground cover. Again, it's a broadleaf plant. And it also is probably the best of all the ones I'm going to mention today on the good guys. It's the best one for your pollinators. The bees, butterflies, they're all over this. Later today, they're probably going to be buzzing with activity with all those pollinators. I'm going to mention a couple of more good guys. One is buffalo clover. And this one I've mentioned before. I've never seen it for sale, but I have seen it show up in all of my Florida food forest gardens, all 3 of them now. And let's see if we can find some right back this way. There's quite a bit of it around here. Like this is it right here. All of this is buffalo clover, and it's growing in with these grasses, but I've got it pretty thick in some places. Here's some right here where it's really good. That's all solid buffalo clover there. And it's another one of those nitrogen fixing ground covers, and its little flowers are also used by the pollinators. I'll mention one more great ground cover, and that's perennial peanut. I don't have an example of that here in this garden, but perennial peanut, although it's not a native plant, it is a nitrogen fixing ground cover. It's very commonly used. It's probably one of the most popular food forest ground covers, especially as you go further south in Florida. It does like it fairly wet, and I think overall this food forest I have here is maybe a little on the dry side for perennial peanut for most of the year. We do get nice and wet in the summertime, but we have about 8 or 9 months of the year where we're really kind of on the dry side. All right, so those are the good guys. So we covered the bad guys, the turf grasses. We covered the good guys. Now let's talk about the ugly. Unfortunately, we have lots of ugly around here still. And one of them is nutgrass. Nutgrass, okay, or it's actually not a grass. It's called nutgrass, but it's actually not. It's actually a sedge. It's got a deep, like little tuber nut deep down in the soil. So when you pull it up like this, pull it out, you don't get that nut. These roots actually go on down further deeper, and they leave that nut behind. The nut's got so much energy in it, it'll send up another new nutgrass plant. So even though I just ripped that out of the ground, I really didn't do anything, because it's going to come right back. So nut sedge, nutgrass, and that's a tough one too, because it's pretty shade tolerant. We have a lot of nut sedge, nutgrass in here, so we're probably always going to have it. I doubt I'll ever be able to eradicate it, but it's just something you do. You try to cover it, smother it. You can't really win the war against it, but you just try to constantly keep winning the battles the best you can. Another one of the uglies is a plant called, depending on where you're at in the country, some people call it sandburrs. And I used to live in Texas. I used to garden in central Texas. Over there it was really bad in some places with it, and they called it grass burrs. And here's a piece. Thankfully, I don't have any of this in my backyard food forest. That's what it looks like. These little seed pods on the tip of this grass. There's the rest of it. This, by the way, this came out of my front yard, xeriscape garden. I'll just set it right here, but I'll be careful to throw this away, because they can start a whole new colony of this stuff back here in my food forest. I don't want that. It's just nasty. These little sharp points are quite painful. In Texas, they were more painful, I've noticed. These are a little bit softer and a little bit less painful here in Florida than the ones in Texas. Other than that, they looks like the identical same plant. I'm guessing it's the exact same species. It might be a little different though, because the ones in Texas are definitely, they've got more of a barb, I think, on the points. But they say each one of the points on these has multiple seeds. So they're nasty, they're spread, but they're relatively easy to control in a nice, shady, wet food forest. That's not really their environment. They like it to be pretty dry and sunny, so you can control them. All right, the final bad guy, really, really bad guy, is Kogan grass. I was unfortunate that some Kogan grass got started in one of the sunnier patches of my garden in Weeki Wachee, Florida. And it was so bad, I kept trying to pull it and pull it. I could never get rid of it. The best I could end up doing with that is I just had a section of my food forest that I just mowed it. I just went ahead and mowed it down to the ground, because Kogan grass is a grass that it gets up about the size of this. This is a pruned back Fakahatchee grass right here, but it just is good for illustrating about the size of, about how big Kogan grass gets, a couple 3 feet off the ground like this. And it will absolutely take over an area and choke out absolutely everything else in the entire area. The only good thing about Kogan grass is that it's not super shade tolerant. So this is a big reason why the big canopy trees, like these big oak trees, are so important to have in a food forest. If I was starting from scratch here without any of these oaks, my backyard here would be so sunny, and with me not mowing, it would be vulnerable to a Kogan grass invasion. And I really want to get my trees up as fast as I can and get as much shade as I can in here to help hopefully keep that from happening, because Kogan grass is all around Central and North Florida. If you go out and look in nature and go hiking much, spend much time out in the countryside, or even just driving around on the roads, you can see it all over the sides of the roads. It's one of the nastiest, most obnoxious, invasive weeds, non-native grass there is in Florida. I think it's pretty high up on the list of the most wanted invasive exotic plants in Florida. Nasty, nasty Kogan grass. So there's some just a few blocks away from here and on the side of the highways near here, just all over the place. So I'm always worried. I don't want the Kogan grass to set up in here. My front yard, I'm not too worried about. It's a xeriscape, and I keep it actually mowed, as I've discussed in some of my xeriscape videos. And in my backyard here, I'm hopeful that we can just get it all up and shady enough, and with already covered with the good ground covers, and we're making good progress right here. Did I cover? Yeah, I covered the frog fruit. Let me show you another area with frog fruit on the ground. This frog fruit is in here. Unfortunately, it's mixed in with some Bermuda. There it is, mixed in with Bermuda. So it's battling it out right now. The frog fruit is battling it out with the Bermuda over here. And over here, the frog fruit is battling it out with a little bit of Bermuda, but mostly a whole bunch of Bahia grass over here. And I bet if I looked around, I could probably find some nut grass. Yeah, there's some. So anyway, we're hopefully, we're optimistic we can keep the Kogan grass from coming in. It's the worst of the worst. So if you see any sign of Kogan grass in your food forest, nip that in the bud as soon as you can. Get it out, get it out. I can tell you from experience, I worked hard one whole season trying to get it out. And then again, the following season, it finally got to the point where I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep up with it. So I had to just keep that area mowed. Kogan grass, definitely one of the uglies. Okay, I hope that was helpful. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We want a cooperating ecosystem here where all the plants enjoy living together and living with the fungi. And those bad guys, they're trying to fight what you're trying to do. So you could summarize it all up with saying that the worst ground cover situation is grass, turf grasses. We have quite a bit of that here. The next best ground cover situation is no turf grasses and just solid mulch, which is what you have here. But this is not the best. The best situation is your broadleaf plant ground covers, the good guys that we've discussed. And here's a great example of that buffalo clover actually growing into my mulchy area. So there's still some remnants of the Bermuda grass in here. Just need to get these out. I just keep battling it. Every time I pull this up like this a little bit, there's a bunch of the roots there from that Bermuda. But every time I do this, I'm tipping the scales towards my buffalo here, buffalo clover. I mean, giving it the advantage and creating a disadvantage for the Bermuda. Keep doing that. Over time, this whole area will be covered with the buffalo grass. And maybe I'll get some sunshine mimosa in here and some frog fruit in here too. Okay, I hope that was helpful, everybody. Enjoy your gardens, have a lot of fun, but stay cool. Y'all take care now, and happy gardening.